Assalamualaikum. I'm Nur Aisyah binti Cik Muhammad Zamzuri and my team members Nur Fitriah binti Zailani, Siti Kartika binti Ruzitar, Aziza Syaffa binti Rosli. We are presenting our Undergraduate Project studies, measuring memorable tourism experience and satisfaction of Zoo Negara. In the first chapter, Introduction, in recent years, more than 800,000 domestic and international tourists per year has visited Malaysia National Park, Zoo, Wildlife Conservation Centre and Marine Park. In Malaysia, zoo is the most easily accessed place for people to observe wildlife. There are 3 main zoos in Malaysia which are in Kuala Lumpur, Melaka and Perak. All these 3 zoos are managed by different entities which are the non-governmental organization. Next, the quality experience provided toward visitors which are indeed memorable, directly control a business ability to generate revenue. This research is to identify memorable tourism experience and satisfaction of visitors to Zoo Negara. Next, we continue to background of study. Background of study. First, memorable tourism experience refer to the memories of the visitor, particularly their feeling and emotion that occur and experience during a tourism activity. Next, satisfaction is influenced by service quality, a specific judgment of service being served, while satisfaction is assessed in wider term. In addition, the number of visitors that visiting Zoo Negara are declining every year. Zoo Negara had a good record of 708,000 visitors in 2014. In 2016, Zoo Negara had 435,000 visitors only and it sank to 345,000. But the figure varies slightly with 360,000 people coming in last year. But it's still an overall declining as shown in the bar graph. Next, I continue to problem statement. The downward trend to visiting Zoo Negara. In 2014 until 2018, the number of visitors that visiting Zoo Negara are declining. According to Bernama, Zoo Negara had faced a declining visitor due various issues and negative perception. Next is the different experiential factor may influence the memories of past tourism experience. Next is theoretical framework. For the theoretical framework, MTE is the independent variable, whereas satisfaction is dependent variable. The relationship between the independent variable and dependent variable has illustrated as follows. I continue to research objective. Our research objective consists 2 objectives. First objective is to identify the dimension of memorable experience of visitor to Zoo Negara. And second objective to investigate the relationship between memorable tourism experience and satisfaction. Next, I will explain on research question. Our research question consists of 7 questions. First, what are the dimensions of memorable experience of visitor to Zoo Negara? Second, what are the relationship between knowledge and satisfaction? Third, what are the relationship between meaningfulness and satisfaction? Fourth, what are the relationship between refreshment and satisfaction? Fifth, what are the relationship between hedonism and satisfaction? Sixth, what are the relationship between novelty and satisfaction? And lastly, what are the relationship between participation and satisfaction? I will pass to the next presenter for the chapter 2.
Next, I will continue with chapter 2, literature review. Tourism is a multi-sectoral activity that requires inputs of a social, cultural, economic and environmental natures and generates employment directly and indirectly with the growth in other related industries. While zoo is an exhibition facility open to the public and this distinguishes it from non-public domestic animal breeding. Zoo also is a collection of exotic animals in captivity. Wildlife tourism has become more popular in recent years because of the experience offered to the participants to reconnect with nature in a potentially life-changing way. According to the previous study, part of the experience a zoo offers in an encounter with a variety of exotic animal species in captivity. This may be referred to as wildlife tourism. Next, memorable tourism experience. Studies have proven that memorable tourism experience or tourism-related experience can influence tourist behavioral aspects such as their satisfaction of a trip, intention to recommend, and intention to revisit either directly or indirectly. According to Forrest 2019, memorable tourism experience refer to the positive tourism experience that are memorized and recollected after the activity has finished, and also the concepts of memorable tourism experience has gained interest among scholars. In this study, 6 components will be proposed as component of memorable tourism experience, which are knowledge, meaningfulness, hedonism, novelty, refreshment, and participation.
I will continue with certification. Certification is recognized as a significant concept in improving the performance of various tourist destinations and is often viewed as an appropriate result because certified visitor is one of the objectives of tourist destination. Certification is the most crucial issue in the business of tourism as it can determine the success or failure of business venture because we will be encouraged to revisit and promote the recreational destination further. Next, the relationship between knowledge and certification. Knowledge from a tourist experience is likely influenced by tourist expectations, certification, and memories. Based on Novaki 2013, the analysis of relationship between visitor knowledge and certification show that the level of knowledge has a significant influence on the level of certification. Meaningfulness and certification. In the content of tourism, when meaningfulness to customer is enhanced, experience will become more memorable. And if tourists have meaningful feeling during their travel, they will be satisfied and excited. Next, the relationship between refreshment and satisfaction. Refreshment is the feeling of being refreshed and affect one's memory of a travel. Individuals' perception of time as free is important to a person's tourist experience and satisfaction. Next is hedonism and satisfaction. Hedonism is an integral part of leisure experience and a crucial factor in determining tourist satisfaction as well as their future behavior. Novelty and satisfaction. Toyama and Yamada 2012 mentioned that have a positive link between novelty and satisfaction. If the novelty experience at a destination exceeds the expectation, the visitor will be happy and satisfied. Lastly, the relationship between participation and satisfaction. Participation as a reinforcement of affective feeling and also one involvement with travel experience was found to significantly increase the memory of past experience and visitor satisfaction.
Next, I will continue the chapter 3, which is research methodology. Firstly, research design. We use descriptive research and it involves numerical information. This study method was used a quantitative research method and the questionnaire was distributed as a data collection. This study was conducted between February until July 2020. Secondly, target population. The target population contained the visitor who had visited Zoo Negara and the respondents were randomly surveyed and aged 18 years old and above. Next, sampling technique. Convenience sampling, which is non-probability sampling, was chosen in this study. The sample size was calculated by using the formula by Tabachnik and Fidel 2007. So the sample size become equal or more than 98. Fourthly, instrument. The survey questionnaire was divided into two main sections, which is section A is dealing with the respondent demographic profile, and in the section B, the range of questions were developed to assess respondent acceptability level based on component of MTE. Fifthly, data collection. The primary data was collected from the visitor that come into Zoo Negara by using email or Google Form. Besides that, the secondary data were collected from article and previous study through Google Scholar. A pilot survey also was carried out to test the suitability of the questionnaire. Lastly, data analysis. The data was analysed using the SPSS IBM version Statistic 23. Last but not least, the demographic of the selected sample were presented by table, and the data of the relationship between MTE and satisfaction were presented by person correlation analysis and hypothesis testing. Chapter 4. This chapter will describe all the analyzed data and the finding of the study. Gender. Based on this chart, we can see the male respondent are 41.8% and 58.2% was female respondent. Age. The majority from 5 category level fall to the range from 23 to 27 years old with 48.4%, followed by 18 to 22 years old with 27%. Besides that, the categories of age 28 to 32 years old with 11.5%, followed by 33 to 37 years old with 7.4% and 38 years old and above with 5.7%. Nationality. As we can see, the nationality majority were Malaysian that consists 96.7%. There are also other nationalities such as South Korean with 1.6%, followed by Singaporean and Thailand with 0.8%. Have you ever visited the Zoo Negara? We can see that 100% went to Zoo Negara. How many times they have visited the Zoo Negara? Majority respondents have visited the Zoo Negara 1 to 2 times with 89.3%, followed by 3 to 4 times with 5.7% and more than 5 times with 4.9%. How likely is it that you will revisit Zoo Negara? They likely to revisit this place with 69.7% and very likely with 18.9%. Besides that, 7.4% was unlikely to revisit this place and very unlikely with 4.1%. When do you normally visit Zoo Negara? Respondents normally visit to Zoo Negara during school holiday with 38.5%, during weekend with 37.7% and during public holiday with 23.8%. Whom did you visit with? Respondent visits to Zoo Negara with their family with children, colleagues or best friend, with their partner, or they go by themselves. As we can see, the highest respondent visit to this place with their family with children, which is 45.1%. Lastly, how did you know about Zoo Negara? They know from various sources like Zoo Negara website, printed media, search engine, news, school and television, and word of mouth. However, we can see that majority respondents know about this place from social media, which is 47.5%. Descriptive analysis. The table had showed the total mean statistic and standard deviation for each of the variable. As we can see, the highest total mean was recorded is refreshment with the total mean score is 5.07 and standard deviation of 0.79. However, the lowest total mean was recorded is novelty with the mean score is 4.86 and standard deviation of 0.80. Reliability analysis. The purpose of conducting reliability tests is to find out whether the items in the questionnaire are reliable for the researcher to analyze. Based on this table, we can see that the highest value of Chromba Alpha was 0.918, which is participation with 4 questions. However, the lowest value of Chromba Alpha for knowledge is 0.774 with 4 questions.
Next, I will continue with correlation analysis. In this study, it's important to identify the strength of the correlation of the variables in order to identify the relationship between each independent variable towards the dependent variable. Based on the result, meaningfulness had recorded as the highest correlation among the 6 independent variables with the dependent variables, while the coefficient correlation of the relationship between knowledge and visitor satisfaction had recorded as the lowest correlation among the 6 variables.
After that,
I will continue with hypothesis testing. This hypothesis testing showed the result based on the table of Pearson correlation. Based on the result of the hypothesis testing, all the hypotheses are supported. This is because all the hypotheses showed a positive result in the coefficient correlation of the relationship between hypothesis and the visitor satisfaction. The significance also showed positive result according to the Pearson correlation table. Based on the result, all the hypotheses had recorded at R more than 0 while P is lower than 0.01. This showed that there is a positively significant relationship between the hypothesis and visitor satisfaction. As a conclusion, the research hypotheses that mentioned in Chapter 1 are all accepted.
I will start with the result of the study. Firstly, based on the first objective in Chapter 1, this study has identified 6 dimensions of memorable tourism experience, which are knowledge, meaningfulness, refreshment, hedonism, novelty, and participation. From the research based on the online review, the researcher has concluded that all of these 6 dimensions are the main component of MTE, become the benchmark to determine customer satisfaction toward Zoo Negara Malaysian. The result of this study show that the higher positive review in visitor satisfaction evaluation, which is refreshment, and the lowest, which is novelty. From the result, the researcher can conclude that MTE is very important to impress and give effect a person memory. Net is based on the objective 2. The relationship between memorable tourism experience and satisfaction is quietly good and satisfied is based on the result of the data analysis. The researcher can finalize that MTE directly influence visitor satisfaction in Zoo Negara. It based on the 6 dimensions that have been used in this study. And this study also able to prove that memorable tourism experience that has a relationship with satisfaction is similar with the previous study that mentioned in Chapter 2. A few research limitations were obtained from this research. Firstly, limitation of time. The reviews collected are evaluated in limited time frame, which is from February until July 2020. The results may differ if the time is longer and more review collected for the study. Second, the research was limited to 6 components to time and resources limitation. Thirdly, limitation outcome in quantitative research. Quantitative research method involves structured questionnaire with closed question. It leads to limited outcome outlined in the report. And lastly, limitation of review. The review analysts in this study only 122 respondents that visit the Zoo Negara. The result of the study may differ if have more respondents.
Next, I continue to the recommendation to the organization. First, the organization need to provide more knowledgeable activity that can enhance tourist involvement by designing any program in which visitor can actively participate during visiting Zoo Negara. Furthermore, the organization can offer creative activity as studies suggest that uniqueness of the creative activity make the experience particularly memorable and provide unforgettable or memorable tourism experience. Next, the zoo organization may offer learning experience where visitors can observe the local flora and fauna, an appealing zoological case. In addition, the organization needs a continuous product and service development and modification are essential for attracting repeat visitors. Providing tourists with MTE can stimulate their positive emotions such as revisit intention. Lastly, the organization needs to undertake promotion campaign to attract more visitors to visiting Zoo Negara. Also, attempt to create an excitement environment and safe environment.
We continue with future research. The researcher can use variety strategy to be used to measure satisfaction in Zoo Negara by looking into more articles and review online. Secondly, future research can use qualitative research that aim to understand the social reality of individual, group, and culture nearly as possible. And finally, the future research also should include more respondent participation in the research. Subject of certification can be explained and understand more deeply.
For the conclusion, the study can conclude that the organisation should look up to the visitor satisfaction. It is because, based on findings that show the visitor satisfaction is the most important thing that influence the visitor toward visiting an MTE. From this study, the objective to identify the dimension of memorable experience of visitor to Zoo Negara and to investigate the relationship between memorable tourism experience and satisfaction has been achieved. The overall findings show that the relationship between memorable tourism experience and visitor satisfaction positively related to each other. Lastly, the organisation should consider researcher recommendation to help problems that they occur to run Zoo Negara. The recommendation might help to boost up the visitor satisfaction when they visiting Zoo Negara in future. Thank you.